the Trade Minister Don Farrell has returned from his trip to Beijing. He's the third Australian minister to visit China in the past 6 months. Now back home, Don Farrell joined me a short time ago where we began by discussing the warm reception he received on the ground.
Look, it was a very welcoming visit, very positive, and yeah, we hit it off pretty well together, I think you'd say. He, to my surprise, organised a private visit to the Forbidden City. We didn't know that was coming, and of course that's a very great privilege to have done that. And the formal meetings, we had 2 formal meetings, and both of them were very warm and friendly.
Well, that sort of reflects where I guess the Chinese Communist Party's at in terms of wanting to re-engage.
Yep.
If he's allowed to take that approach, is that fair to say?
Look, I've taken it as a very positive sign. Our wish over the last 12 months was to stabilise our relationship with China and to get all of these trade impediments that have damaged our relationship, get them removed and get us back to that stable situation where we can sell our terrific food and wine into China, and Chinese consumers have the benefit of our terrific products. What actually pleasantly surprised me was the level of Australian products in Chinese supermarkets in Beijing, and the fact that all of the messages from the business people that I caught up with was the Chinese people are wanting more and more of our products. So I think it's a very good sign.
So even though there was that sort of freeze in relations, it didn't affect the Chinese people's goodwill.
No, and
towards Australia.
And I went to a supermarket and I was just blown away by just how many Australian products were actually on sale in the supermarket. You know, dairy products, beer. You know, some of the finest beers. Cooper's beer from South Australia was on the shelves, and just about everywhere you looked, there was an Australian product. And the message that I got from the business people up there was that there's an even greater demand for our products. So apparently, cosmetics are going to be the next big thing. Australian cosmetics.
Well, so there wasn't any direct result or removal of tariffs. My colleague Ben Packham from The Australian travelled with you on the trip. He wrote that you wanted to use the visit to form a close working relationship with Minister Wang, who was keen to reciprocate. Is that fair to say that that was the #1 goal on the trip, and then other things will come from that?
Yeah, look, the important thing I think to remember, Kieran, is that there hasn't been a meeting of an Australian Trade Minister for more than 4 years. Minister Wang has never met an Australian Trade Minister. We've now had 2 meetings in the last 2 months, one a virtual one. It's interesting, I thought he was about my height. I discovered he's about a foot taller than me, because that's the difference you get between a Zoom meeting and a physical meeting. So establishing that rapport, I think, is important in resolving these issues. We did get an outcome in the sense that we've both agreed that we'll use our free trade agreement as the mechanism for resolving these current disputes. So there is a process forward, and that was really the thing I was hoping to get. So that we could see that there was a way through all of the issues that were still outstanding.
So you've got the personal side and the process. The opposition, I had the Shadow Treasurer on my program on Sunday. He said there's been a lot of talk from Labor, not a lot of outcomes. They want to see outcomes, the coalition. What do you say in response to Mr Taylor?
Well, it's pretty cheeky, isn't it, really? I mean, this is the mob that their poor language resulted in this all of these trade impediments, and now they're suddenly saying they want them resolved. Well, we are starting the process of resolving them. We've got coal back into the Chinese market. We've got Australian cotton back into the Chinese market. Copper is back into the Australian market. Within weeks, we're going to get a decision about the issue of barley. which I think will be a positive decision. You know, billions of dollars worth of trade there. And that barley process is the one that we've said to the Chinese, we want to use that to resolve the wine issue. The
opposition would argue that it wasn't their language, that it was Chinese aggression that caused the drama. What do you say to that?
Look, let's put what's happened behind us. I'm looking to the future. I believe the Chinese Trade Minister is also looking to the future. We want these impediments behind us, and we want to stabilise that trading relationship so that Australian products, as quickly as possible, can get back into the Chinese market.
The Chinese Foreign Minister to also visit Australia this year, along with the Trade Minister. That sounds like another step towards potentially our Prime Minister paying a visit to Beijing later in the year to mark 50 years of diplomatic ties between the two countries. Is that your expectation?
Well, look, the Prime Minister's travel arrangements, of course, are privy to him. Interestingly enough, when I was there this month, it was 50 years since Jim Cairns had made the first visit of an Australian Trade Minister to China. Obviously, it's a propitious year to be there, and of course, I'm sure the Chinese would welcome any visit by an Australian Prime Minister.
And the Chinese counterpart, your counterpart, he's going to visit your vineyard in the Clare Valley of South Australia. I can't imagine him showing up with the wine tariff still in place. I'd say they'd be gone by then, surely.
Well, let's hope so, and let's hope so that they're removed very, very quickly. No, I invited him to come to Adelaide. He'd previously been to Sydney and Melbourne. So, of course, we've got the Foreign Minister down in Adelaide. We've got the Foreign Shadow Minister, and, of course, Francis Adamson, who's the Governor, of course, had been formerly an Australian ambassador to China. So, no, he's very welcome, and he didn't take any time at all to accept the invitation.